I've been away for a couple weeks or just a little while, but I've been learning some tips and tricks about video editing. So look for some changes to the channel coming up soon, just to modernize things and get the look and feel a little bit more like the rest of the videos in the world today, in a good way, I promise. This review actually closes the loop on something in a good way too. I read The Secret Garden in 2014. It's by Hodgson Burnett. Yes, That Secret Garden. Did not read it when I was a child. Read it then in 2014, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I wrote this about it that year. It was a good and poignant read for me right now. I can't wait to relate it in its entirety to my pouting and brooding children, but it'll be years before they have the patience and understanding for its message. For the bulk of the book, I was reminded of the power of the outdoors. We have a continuous fight for attention with the screens in our house, and the young character's explorations into nature and life renewed my energy for that good fight. After finishing it, I'm looking at the surface level message on the power of positivity and digging deeper to take away that actual significant change can only begin when you open the door of acceptance and affect it. So it's kind of a short review here, but the reason why I say it closes the loop a little bit is because I think I read it specifically because of that book that I read just before this, which was The Enchanted Hunters, The Powers of Stories in Childhood. This was one that came up in my reading there as a book for children that I hadn't read that's really a classic. And so I read it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which actually sounds kind of low to me now. I have a really fond memory of the book. The themes that were really strong for me in it are the power of perception on our reality and how, not necessarily manifesting something, but really what we accept and what we believe to be our reality becomes our reality. And the statements that it makes about that for the main characters is pretty bold and talks about their environment. And I think about extrapolating that to what our collective perceptions are and how that affects our reality and the things we believe feels really powerful. The things that I mentioned in here about getting to the outdoors, I think are still applicable today. I think reading the book in 2014 was really key. I say that it was poignant for me then, and I think it's talking about the review right now is actually pretty poignant for me too. I think the outdoors are the way to break out of any sort of negative perceptions or the types of perceptions that might be holding us to some reality that is not particularly optimal for us. The way to break out is to get outside, to disrupt your pattern, to go and breathe the air and take a look at everything around you. I think it's a powerful message, and I think it's told well in The Secret Garden, and it's definitely a great lesson to take home. I talk about my pouting and brooding children. If this was 2014, that means they were 3 and 5 at the time. So that makes sense. I think the boys would be willing to read this now, but I don't know if they would be interested in reading it now. I definitely will bring it up to them again now that it's out there. But they read this kinds of stuff all the time in terms of great classic literature through school and through other things. Long time ago, though, 2014 and now 2024, this is 10 years later, they may have the patience for it and the understanding for its message. Those key messages that I want to reiterate, though, the idea of how perception shapes reality and how getting outside, getting into the outdoors, getting into natural beauty can help disrupt certain perceptions that lead to certain realities, I think is really important. And I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I think in my memory, it sits much more in the 4 to 5 star range. I think it's a great book, and I think it's a great book for kids. It's probably only a 3 of 5 stars because I read it as an adult and it wasn't really a match for me in that it is written for kids. Most of the people on my Goodreads network gave it a much greater rating than I did. So, The Secret Garden by Hodgson Burnett. I give it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I will link the review to Enchanted Hunters, The Power of Stories in Childhood here too. It's just a couple reviews ago, but it was the one that led me to this. Don't know that there's a whole lot more books for kids that I read independently, but I will have an entire series that as the boys get older, I talk about books that I read to them, which are great too. So there might actually be a separate playlist just for that. So yeah, this was the one I did by myself, inspired by that book. And there's more to come. There's fun ones on the way. So till next.